Hello and welcome to the Political Opinions podcast, where every opinion is given equal footing and political tolerance and debate are given their proper attention in a world where both are on the decline. Today's episode will cover different opinions on a 4-day work week. Ask any number of people if they would want a 3-day weekend, and you will find the answer is likely a resounding yes. The idea of an extra day away from work to do with as you please is one most people love the sound of. If this is truly the case, however, why then did the people of Switzerland vote no to a shorter work week? You might suggest that the Swiss are just in love with work, which is an idea I think could be true. Another and perhaps more prominent reason, however, is that the 4-day work week has a number of drawbacks that many people often fail to consider. Today, we will unpack and compare these opinions. Before coming to these drawbacks, however, let's start with the apparent benefits of a 4-day work week. The most prominent argument, and one used to support ideas of later starts to school, is that people are more productive if they have to work less. Let's say you work 35 hours a week. Yet your work only takes you 25 hours. That is a lot of extra time you're not really doing much productive. Now, say your work week falls to 28 hours. Suddenly, you have less time to do the work, meaning you actually have to spend your time at work doing work. Moreover, you are likely less worn out and tired with an extra day of rest. All this adds up into a claimed boost to worker productivity. Now, alongside this boost of productivity is a more efficient use of time. With a 4-day week, gone will be the days of torturous and needlessly long work meetings. There simply is not time for it anymore. With less time to work, many unnecessary time-consuming activities will be eliminated. Inefficient tasks will have to be replaced with efficient uses of time, all of which reduce waste and improve productivity. Now, while removing meetings alone would likely greatly boost employees' mental health, we cannot ignore the extreme benefit of a 50% rise in days off. People will have more time to spend on hobbies, with their family, working on mental health, and so on. All of this can improve the work-life balance, make people happier, give them more energy, and mean they will likely be more engaged in the time they are actually at work, because a lot of it isn't going to as much waste. To say this only benefits the employee is wrong, however. Employers will also benefit. The main impact will be the reduced cost they have to pay. With a day less of work, that's a day less of office fees, travel fees, and so on. Alongside a rise in productivity, therefore, the finances of companies are expected to be much better with a 4-day week. If you haven't noticed at this point, the underlying factor in all of these points is that productivity rises. Don't worry, however, if you didn't do it. Here is another chance. Productivity is claimed to benefit consumers and customers. With more productivity, goods and services will be produced faster, more efficiently, and usually to a higher standard. This can be felt in the real world with less time on pointlessly long customer support calls, easier access to goods, and so on. For example, we all know that one company with a god-awful hold music for their phone, and we all have to spend needlessly long amounts of time listening to said garbage music. With a shorter week, it is claimed we will all be saved from this terrible evil. Now, another group to benefit from a shorter work week is parents. An extra day off makes it just that bit easier to work while still caring for children. Parents can spend more time with their kids and spend less overall on childcare. This is particularly good for single parents who may not have been able to go full-time due to childcare commitments. However, with a 4-day week, they will have more equal opportunities. And interestingly, this is also claimed to boost gender inequality because most of these parents are single mums. Now let's finish with a slightly different point. Firstly, we have the benefit to the environment. Put simply, a day less commuting is a day less of carbon emissions for workers, hence better for the environment. And finally, there are claims that a 4-day workweek can decrease unemployment by allowing employers to take on more employees and open up more job positions. All things considered, therefore, a 4-day week seems pretty good. Or is it? The primary issue with all of these points just mentioned is that they depend on an increase to workers' productivity. Otherwise, we're just looking at the same work in less time. And that is exactly the risk some people believe will happen. Workers are not guaranteed to become more efficient, and especially with jobs with high workloads already. With less time, people may not simply be able to keep up with the workload, which would be even worse than having a 5-day week. This risk also manifests itself into other problems, like employees having to rush tasks. Instead of using time efficiently, people may instead rush from one thing to the next in order to get it all done in the shorter time frame. Meetings that are essential may not be done properly, communication could fall, and employees could be overworked. To say therefore there will be a time use revolution where everyone becomes super efficient forgets one thing. We're all human, not robots, and humans aren't perfect when it comes to using time perfectly well. All of this could in turn negatively impact employees. The main risk is that the increased stress level from mounting workloads could worsen mental health. Furthermore, employees may have to take on overtime hours to cover the lost workday. Therefore, instead of the usual 4-day 9-to-5 with a day off, which is what people suggest, we could instead have a 4-day hectic and very long work week, with the new day off being purely spent on recovery, not self-improvement. Coming back to overtime. As anyone who has done it or paid for it will know, overtime is very expensive. Wages for overtime are far higher than contracted work hours, and if people have to take on more overtime hours to cover the increase in workload, then costs may rise. Furthermore, without a gain in productivity, employers may be even more wasteful, losing clients, having wasted materials, and so on. If all we do is remove a workday without any benefits, costs for everyone are going to go up. Now, if this doesn't sound good, don't worry. It gets worse. With worse performance for employees, consumer satisfaction will also fall. The goods and services they get may be worse quality, and the loss in contact time with people is even worse. I'm sure almost everyone has dealt with a phone support robot, which is put simply, garbage. With less work time, the use of these bots will only rise. Now, the rise of these robots is the real terror. Not only are they going to rule us one day, but they will also bore us to death in the process. Now, at this point I would like to introduce Bob. With a 4-day work week, Bob is more stressed. He is annoyed with customer complaints, and he has now just had a nervous breakdown because yet another area of his life is harder. Bob is a single dad who now cannot balance work with his childcare. The nurseries in his area are designed for a 9-to-5 job and can't accommodate the extra hours Bob has to work. The childcare industry is designed to be as accommodating as possible, which means 9-to-5, Monday to Saturday usually. If everyone's working different hours, however, and different days because of a 4-day work week, childcare may actually be even harder than before, which really isn't that good. Let's round out this lovely section with some other drawbacks. Mainly that the 4-day work week simply cannot work for some industries. Take any form of work that relies on salesmen and women. They don't do a set amount of work, but do work when required as customers come in. A 4-day work week for these people won't work. It just reduces the opportunities to sell. This is the same for bus drivers, taxi drivers, and any other job that isn't as structured as the traditional office-bound 9-to-5. This point really epitomises the 4-day week to those who oppose it. The wrong approach, which creates more problems than it solves. Let's see how these points stack up against one another. Firstly, on productivity. Some believe workers will be more productive because they have to do more work to compensate for less hours. Others believe they'll be less productive, and there is a risk they won't be able to keep up with the same amount of work in a lot less time. Then on the use of time itself. Some believe workers will use time more efficiently, they'll remove inefficient tasks and be less wasteful. Others believe, however, they'll simply rush tasks, they won't be efficient. People don't really use time efficiently, and instead they'll just go from one thing to another very quickly, and again they're rushed, not efficiently done. How all this affects the employee then? Some believe with a 4-day week, employees will be more engaged if they work less. It's beneficial to their mental health, work-life balance, and so on. Others believe that they'll actually be bad for employees. People will be stressed out with more work to do, and they may have to increase hours to cover the lost time. Then on the cost to the employer, some believe firms will have to pay fewer overhead costs with less days of work. There'll be lower maintenance fees, travel fees, and so on. Others, however, believe costs may actually rise. People might be less productive, meaning waste goes up, and overtime costs are very high and again will likely rise. Then on this point of the consumer, some believe the consumer will benefit from the increased productivity of employees, and products and services will be better quality, be produced faster, and so on. Others believe consumers will be frustrated from less contact time with employees. Many consumers prefer people to bots, and bot usage will rise with less employees in the office at any given time. How it impacts parents? Some believe a shorter work week will be good because it allows people to spend more time with their kids, spend less on childcare, and balance it more easily. However, others believe, somewhat counterintuitively, that with less time working, childcare will be harder because of the unintended consequence of having to do more hours, and the fact that the childcare system is built for the traditional 9 to 5, not any other system that may come into place. And finally, not really a comparison, but just the last point. Some believe there'll be a positive impact to the environment and reduced unemployment, which are positives, and others believe that with certain industries, the 4-day workweek won't work. It's the wrong approach, and therefore a negative. Overall then, those who support the 4-day workweek do so because they believe it will be better for all involved. The key point is that productivity will rise, which then leads to many more benefits. Those who oppose it, however, argue that productivity won't rise, and the number of unintended consequences it creates is too great to consider doing it. With the impact of COVID-19 changing the way many people work, there are claims that the traditional 9 to 5 is dead. Whether or not this is true, we have yet to really see because there hasn't been enough time. But it is interesting to see how the world of work changes in the future, with more working from home, increased automation, and so on. Perhaps it will all change. Perhaps it won't. We'll just have to wait and see. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts on the topic on the comments or on Twitter. Be sure to check back on Monday for another episode. Thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you soon.